Okie dokie. So we are going to be doing a little bit of reading in our textbook. Our reading starts on page 92. So if you don't have your notebook with you, you need to go to your cubby and get it out at this time. So go ahead and pause this video in order to go get it if you don't already have it. You should be following along. All right. So we're first going to be talking about civilization in Sumer, which is in Mesopotamia, ancient Mesopotamia. And so that's what we're going to be looking at, and we will be talking a little bit about it, going over our PowerPoint, and so then we will be filling in pages of our interactive notebook. One of the world's first civilizations formed in the southern part of Mesopotamia in an area called Sumer. The people there spoke a common language, now known as Sumerian. By about 3000 BC, several cities in Sumer had grown to become large independent city-states. Each city-state had thousands of people and controlled lands covering hundreds of square miles. Like the many smaller farming settlements in Mesopotamia, the southern city-states depended on agriculture for food. Okay, so agriculture is like farming. And if we recall, city-states is one of our vocab words, one of our power words. It was a basic unit of Sumerian civilization. It is a small area surrounding a large city. So a city-state is just a small area that surrounds a larger city. Okay. Advances in farming. To meet the needs of the growing populations, the city-states in Sumer needed to produce huge amounts of food. In the rich soil along the banks of the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, Sumerian farmers grew grains such as barley and wheat. They also grew vegetables, including onions and cucumbers, and raised livestock. Livestock was animals like cows and such. They need to grow large amounts of food. The need to grow large amounts of food led the Sumerians to many important innovations, or new ways of doing things. So an innovation is a new way of doing things. Because Mesopotamia got little rainfall, Sumerian farmers had to find ways to use river water to irrigate their crops. Irrigate is to water their crops. The Sumerians also needed to protect their crops from both flooding and drought. So flooding is when there's too much water, drought is when there's not enough. To solve these problems, the Sumerians found ways to change the rivers. They built dikes or dams made of earth to control river flooding, and they filled reservoirs or human-made lakes with water for later use. The Sumerians built canals to bring water to fields in dry seasons. In their farm fields, the Sumerians carefully watched over their plants as they grew taller and taller. Each spring, farmers harvested their crops. After harvesting their grain crops, they threshed or separated the grain from the husk or the outer shell of the plant. So they basically were peeling, separating the grain from the outer part of the plant. After threshing, farmers took the grains to large storehouses in their cities. The Sumerians were among the first to use wheeled carts to carry crops and other heavy loads. They harnessed donkeys and other domesticated animals to pull the carts. Growing enough food to feed the thousands of people living in a city-state took many workers and a division of labor. Division of labor is the sharing of a large job so that each worker does only one part of it. In Sumer, some workers were in charge of watering the fields. Others planted, cared for, and harvested the crops. Still, others took the crops from the fields to the cities. Many more workers helped store and distribute the food. When crops were plentiful, the city-states could trade their surpluses. A surplus is the amount of product that is left after all the needs have been met. So if they had something extra, they could go and they could trade it for other things. The Sumerians knew that failure to produce enough food would bring disaster. They learned to depend on organization and cooperation to be successful. Okay, so let's look at our page, all of our extra stuff. So this is a mosaic, so it's a patterned picture. It shows the wheeled carts that they made, and they're carrying soldiers, it looks like. And it says by 3000, it's a fast fact, by 3000 BC, Sumerians were using the wheel in several different ways. With wheeled carts, people could move goods quickly. They also crafted pottery using a potter's wheel. The first wheel was likely invented many years earlier to help move things more easily from place to place. So they actually invented the wheel, which is really cool. And here we have Sumerians crafted many human-like figures, such as this woman and man from small pieces of marble. Super neat. And so what were some innovations that helped the Sumerians grow enough food? What are some things that they did? What are some innovations, the things that they came up with? Well, first off, if we look over here, they didn't get a lot of rainfall, so they had to be creative. They had to build dams in order to control the river flooding. They filled human-made lakes with water to use later. They built canals. They invented the wheel, right? So they did lots of different things to help make sure that they grew enough food. Okay, and then this is our map that we're going to be looking at today, and that you will be kind of more or less just copying it down. In order to copy it down on the map, I simply put my best artist skills to work, and I just copied the shape. You do want to use the same colors. Okay, so this is what we're looking at right here. You want to use the same colors, okay? That will be important to do so. So we're using the same colors here, all right, in order to copy it down. And this is in your book on page 94. So this is on page 94 of your book. You should be following along, and it's right there for you to look at and analyze. So if we're looking at Mesopotamia, Mesopotamia is this area right through here, is this pinkish area. And notice that it is located between the two rivers, right? So Euphrates is right here and Tigris is right here. And Sumer is, sorry, not Sumer, but Mesopotamia is this large place right here. Fertile Crescent, which is one of our power words, is this whole green, okay? It's all the green that you see, okay? Sumer, the civilization that we're talking about, located in the southern part of Mesopotamia, is just this little tiny orange piece right here, okay? It's just this little tiny orange piece, all right? And on my map, I did include the rivers. I didn't include all of the towns or anything. I just included Sumer, the rivers, the Euphrates and the Tigris, the Fertile Crescent, and Mesopotamia. Those are really the only key parts that you have to copy down and know. And I did say that Asia is over here and then the Syrian desert is over here, just so I would have a general idea of where this was actually located on a regular map. Okay, so that concludes our reading. Let's go ahead and take a look at our PowerPoint. Okay, so go ahead and click on our compass. Mesopotamia is between the two rivers, Tigris and Euphrates, right? Just like we just seen on that map. It was known as the land between two rivers, right? Sumerians developed the earliest civilizations there around 3000 BC, okay? The land of Mesopotamia had rich soil compared to the area surrounding it. The rivers and the fertile soil created an environment that was able to sustain life and civilization, okay? So underneath your flap that says, what do humans need to sustain life? How did the people survive in Mesopotamia? Right? Underneath that flap in your book or in your interactive notebook, you're going to want to copy this down. So the land in Mesopotamia had rich soil compared to the areas surrounding it. The rivers and fertile soil created an environment that was able to sustain life and civilization. Right? That is what should be written. This right here underneath the flap that says, what do humans need to sustain life? And how did the people survive in Mesopotamia? Okay? And then what does it actually mean? What does fertile mean? Fertile soil, right? Fertile just means the ability to produce or the capability of producing an abundant vegetation and crops. So basically, it means you're able to produce or capable of producing farmable land. All right. And that is actually what you need to write next underneath what does fertile mean. It means the ability to produce or the capability of producing farmable land. Okay, and that's not anywhere on here. You just need to follow along as I was saying the definition. Go ahead and rewind the video if you need to. Okay. And the last part of So the last part of the page that you're finishing today, which is page 4. Page 4 is what you're finishing this week. You need to make your map of Mesopotamia. Okay, and you're gonna do that by again copying down this part right here. Okay, you're copying down this part right here. You're gonna want to color code it. Make it look as close as possible. All right. And that will, you'll have finished page 4 in your interactive notebook at that point. And so that really concludes our lecture for week 4.